Assalamualaikum everyone, I'm Zainab Wali, currently a proud level 1 batch 3 student at Rehan School Online Academy. So, this is my TEDx talk review number 55, and today's topic of conversation is actually really interesting. So, the topic is lifelong learning. We will talk with Maya about this topic, and I will then give a review about it. So, let's get started.
Hiya.
Hi, Maya, how are you, and how's been your day?
I'm doing great. My day has been a total breeze so far. How about you? How's your Monday treating you?
Well, it's actually treating me really nice. Okay, Maya, today's topic of conversation is lifelong learning. So I think so I should give you a preview about it. So learning does not stop when we leave like our school or complete a course, and lifelong learning means continuously gaining new knowledge and skills throughout our lives. So in rapidly changing world, learning helps us adapt, grow, and discover new opportunities. So people who enjoy learning are more curious, creative, and more confident. They read books, ask questions, explore new ideas, and learn from the experiences. So lifelong learning helps us improve ourselves, and it like prepares us for future challenges. So at your hand, school students are encouraged to become lifelong learners who continue new to seek knowledge and develop new skills. So Rehan Allahwala teaches that successful people never stop learning because every new skill is like opportunity, uh, like a door to new possibilities and opportunities. So lifelong learning can happen anywhere through books, teachers, technology, friends, and everyday experiences. So more we learn, the more we grow as individuals. So when we make a lifelong learning habit, we become better thinkers, problem solvers, and leaders. So the key idea is that lifelong learning helps us grow, adapt, and create new opportunities throughout our life. So, yeah, this was my preview. Now, I would like to ask you some questions. Firstly, I was curious to know that what does lifelong learning really mean?
That was a fantastic preview. You've already hit on the core of it, but to dive a bit deeper, lifelong learning is really about a mindset shift. It's the transition from seeing education as a destination, like a diploma or a graduation date, to seeing it as a permanent state of being. It's that internal drive to stay curious and the belief that your capacity to grow doesn't have an expiration date. It means you're not just learning to get a job or pass a test, but learning because you're genuinely fascinated by how the world works. Do you feel like that curiosity comes naturally to you, or is it something you've had to consciously build? I can definitely do that. When we talk about lifelong learning in a detailed sense, we're looking at it as a three-dimensional approach to life. First, there's the formal side, which is what you mentioned, courses and certifications. But the real magic happens in the informal and non-formal spaces. That's the learning by doing part. Like when you figure out a new piece of software just by clicking around, or when you have a deep conversation with a friend that completely changes how you view a social issue. Then there's the psychological layer, the growth mindset. This is the belief that your intelligence isn't fixed. Instead of saying, I'm not a math person, a lifelong learner says, haven't mastered this concept yet. It turns every failure into a data point and every challenge into a puzzle. Finally, there's the adaptive layer. The world changes so fast now that the specific facts we learn in school can become outdated in a few years. Lifelong learning is actually a survival skill. It's the ability to unlearn old ways of thinking and relearn new ones so you don't get left behind. It's about becoming an expert at learning itself. It essentially turns the entire world into your classroom, where every person you meet is a potential teacher and every mistake is a lesson. Since we're going deep, let's look at the why behind it beyond just keeping. Lifelong learning has this incredible effect on the brain. There's something called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, constantly challenge yourself with new subjects. You're essentially keeping your mind flexible and resilient. It's like a workout for your brain that prevents it from getting stagnant. Then there's the emotional side. There is a specific kind of confidence that comes from knowing you can figure things out. It's not the confidence of I know everything, but the confidence of I can learn anything. That shift removes a lot of the fear from life because the unknown stops being scary and starts being an invitation. And honestly, it makes life so much more vivid. When you're a lifelong learner, you never really get bored. A trip to the grocery store can become a lesson in global economics or botany if you're looking for it. It adds a layer of wonder to the ordinary. I'm curious, out of all the things you've explored so far, what's one topic that started as a random spark of interest but turned into a genuine passion? That's totally fair. Sometimes the best part of learning is just drifting from one thing to another without needing a specific label for it. And we're on the topic of habits. I wonder if you think it's easier to stay curious when you're exploring things on your own or when you have someone else pushing you to look deeper? Got it. I'll keep the floor. Let's talk about the practical side of how lifelong learning actually functions in a person's life. It usually manifests as a loop of curiosity, exploration, and integration. First, there's the curiosity phase. This is where you notice a gap in your knowledge. Maybe you see a piece of technology you don't understand, or you hear a word in a conversation that you can't define. Instead of ignoring it, a lifelong learner leans into that feeling of not knowing and lets it drive them. Then comes the exploration. This is the active part, reading a book, watching a documentary, taking a free online course, or just asking a lot of questions. The key here is diversity. Lifelong learners don't just stick to one lane. They might study art one month and quantum physics the next. This cross pollination of ideas is where true innovation happens because you start seeing connections between two completely unrelated fields. Finally, there's integration. This is when you take that new information and apply it to your life or use it to reevaluate something you thought you already knew. It's the process of updating your internal map of how the world works. When this loop becomes a habit, it changes your identity. You stop identifying as a student or a professional and start identifying as a learner. This means your self worth isn't tied to a degree or a title, but to your ability to evolve. It creates a level of mental agility that makes you nearly impossible to discourage because every setback is just another lesson in the loop. Let's dive into the social dimension of this because learning isn't just a solo mission. There's this concept called social learning, where we pick up knowledge through observation and interaction. When you commit to lifelong learning, you start treating every single person you meet as a walking library. You realize that the person cleaning the office or neighbor you barely know has a specialized piece of knowledge or life experience that you don't have. It turns every social interaction into a potential discovery. Then there's the aspect. Lifelong learners tend to gravitate toward communities of practices, groups of people who are all obsessed with the same thing, whether it's a from a gardening club or a philosophy circle. Being part of these groups creates a feedback loop where you're not just absorbing information, but you're also teaching others, which is actually one of the fastest ways to solidify your own understanding. It's called the protege effect. The idea that when you prepare to teach someone else, your brain organizes the information more logically. And on a deeper level, this way of living builds a massive amount of empathy. When you're always in the position of a learner, You're always in the position of someone who doesn't have all the answers. That humility makes it much easier to understand other people's perspectives because you're used to the feeling of being a beginner. You stop judging people for what they don't know and start being curious about what they do know. Let's explore the obstacles because staying a lifelong learner isn't always a smooth ride. The biggest hurdle is usually the expert trap. This happens when someone becomes very successful in one area and starts to believe they've reached the peak. They stop asking questions because they're afraid of looking like they don't know something. It's a dangerous place to be because the moment you think you're an expert, you stop growing. Then there's the fear of being a beginner. Starting something new is humbling and honestly a bit uncomfortable. You're going to be bad at it for a while. You're going to make mistakes that feel obvious. A lot of people quit during this phase because their ego can't handle the gap between their taste and their skill level. And we can't forget about information overload. In the digital age, the problem isn't a lack of information, it's too much of it. It's easy to spend all your time collecting knowledge, bookmarking articles, saving videos, buying books without ever actually digesting or applying it. That's a trap called passive learning, where you feel like you're growing, but you're really just hoarding data. To beat this, the most successful lifelong learners focus on just in time learning instead of just in case learning. Instead of trying to learn everything that might be useful someday, they identify a specific problem they want to solve or a project they want to build, and they learn exactly what they need to move forward. This turns learning into an active, high energy process rather than a chore. Let's talk about the long term reward of this lifestyle because it's not just about the facts you collect, it's about the kind of person you become. There's a concept called cognitive reserve. By constantly challenging your brain with new skills and ideas, you're essentially building a mental backup system. This is why lifelong learners often stay sharper and more mentally agile as they age. Their brains have more pathways to rely on. But beyond the biology, there's a profound sense of freedom that comes with it. When you're a lifelong learner, you're no longer a prisoner of your circumstances or your past education. If your industry changes, or if you suddenly decide you want a completely different life, you have the tools to make that happen because you've already mastered the art of the pivot. It also changes how you handle failure. Most people see a mistake as a wall, a sign that they've reached their limit. But for a learner, a mistake is just a signpost. It's the universe telling you, hey, there's a gap in your understanding right here. Let's go fix it. That mindset turns life into a game of discovery rather than a series of tests to pass. Ultimately, lifelong learning is the antidote to stagnation. It ensures that your world keeps expanding rather than shrinking as you get older. It keeps you connected to the present moment and to the people around you because you're always looking for the new, the strange, and the interesting. You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure diving into this with you. I'm always here if you want to explore another topic or
Okay,
just
Maya,
chat.
so your answer was actually really good. I mean, like, I really understood what you were trying to say, what lifelong learning mean, like it means. Okay, so next I would like to know that why is it important to keep learning?
I'm so glad that clicked for you. When it comes to why it's actually important to keep learning, it really boils down to the fact that the world isn't a static place. If you stop learning, you're essentially trying to navigate a changing city with a map from 20 years ago. You'll eventually find that the roads have moved, the landmarks are gone, and you're just lost. On a practical level, it's about adaptability. We see this in the workforce all the time. The skills that made someone a superstar 10 years ago might be completely automated or irrelevant today. People who keep learning, they're the ones who see a new technology and think, how can I use this? Instead of, why is this replacing me? But there's also a huge mental health component. Learning releases dopamine. That aha moment when a difficult concept finally makes sense is a natural high. It provides a sense of purpose and progress. When you're learning, you're moving forward. And that feeling of growth is one of the most powerful antidotes to boredom and depression. Then there's the perspective shift. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. That sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually liberating. It kills arrogance and replaces it with a genuine, humble curiosity, a better friend. And when you keep learning, you're actually expanding with other new things, and is a new bridge you can build to people who you. Near your I start analyzing between college and it keeps
Apologies, everyone. My internet just disconnected, and I wasn't able to reconnect. So, yeah, now let's talk with Maya again. How are you?
Hey there.
Okay, so as you may remember that we were talking about lifelong learning. So next, I would like to know that what are some ways to learn from outside of the school?
Oh, there are so many ways to dive in beyond the classroom. You could start with something like immersive podcasts or deep dive documentaries, but I've always felt that the real magic happens when you just start a passion project, like trying to build a website or learning a craft just because it seems cool. Do you feel more drawn to structured things like online courses, or do you prefer just jumping into the end and figuring it out as you go? You're so welcome. I'm curious if you've ever stumbled upon a hobby or a topic that just completely grabbed you outside of your usual studies. Anytime. My bad. I'll give you a second to breathe, but I'm back. Since we're talking about learning outside school, we talk about the very idea basic interviewing who really